Hi, my name's Keith Cooper of Northlight Images. In this video I'm going to have a look at a pretty tedious bit of printing called media settings. Now you may have come across media settings when you do printing. You specify the type of paper, the media for it. Doesn't seem much to it, you just select the paper and away you go. It's actually a subtly important bit of getting good print quality. Now it sets the difference between how the printer uses different papers, because inks interact differently with different papers, whatever printer, whatever type of paper you're using. So what happens if you use the wrong settings for the paper? Well, I should say up front that you're not going to damage your printer. The worst that'll happen usually is that you'll get a print that looks awful, that the colours don't look right, they're wrong in some way. That's it. In fact, and I'll come back to this, there are sound reasons sometimes for using the wrong media settings. And in fact, using the wrong media settings and understanding why you're using them is, for many printers, a really good way of getting better quality prints out of it. And that's what I'm driving at in all my testing of different printers. Now I've got the Canon, the new Pro 1100 coming up to look at, and I'll be covering media settings specifically for that printer. In fact, all my printer reviews, the written reviews and the videos that go with them have sections about media settings and what they mean, why you might take notice of them. But anyway, what are they? An inkjet printer sprays ink on paper. Now it has to do that incredibly precisely. It has to mix up the different inks, the different colours, the different types of ink, has to mix them up and place them very precisely, both positionally and temporally, because the paper's moving, the print head's moving. It has to precisely place them on the paper to get the print you want. There is a lot of hidden away information inside the driver, inside the printer, which you have no access to. Even if you try and create custom media settings, as you can on some printers, there is an awful lot of stuff you don't have access to. Now, myself and a few other people who sort of set up printers and look to get the very best out of them would actually like to do that. And I've asked Epson and Canon about it a lot, but no go. It's proprietary stuff, it's hidden away, you get what you get and that's it. So, but what do they do other than, set the amount of ink? Well, they allow for the thickness of the media. So different papers, different thicknesses. The print head needs to adjust its timings for firing the ink droplets depending on the thickness of the paper. Also, ideally, you don't want the print head hitting the paper because that's going to smudge, cause damage, leave marks and generally mess things up. You don't want that. They can also specify which inks are used. So if you've got a printer with multiple blacks, for example, one black will print better on matte paper, one black may print better on glossy paper. Now, if you use the matte black ink on a glossy paper, what will happen typically is that it may dry, may not dry even, but when it does dry, you just rub your finger on it and the black will rub off. The inks are tuned to work with the papers. The papers are also designed to work with the inks, so it's the developments go on together. Remember that neither Canon nor Epson make their own papers, so there are only a limited number of paper mills about and specialist coaters, so there is a lot of commonality in paper just because you see stuff. So I was testing some papers from the US last year, and I showed them to a local paper expert who used to run a paper company here, and he looked at them and he was able to, 3 of the 4, he was able to tell me instantly what they were and who made them. Not what said on the box, but who made them. So there's a lot of commonality in there. There was a paper, incidentally, which he'd never ever seen before, so he was quite curious about that one. But, this is all these different papers. They all need subtly different types and amounts of ink. This varies as well by the printer as well. Now, you may have heard mention of printer profiles. Now, printer profiles are the fine-tuning, as it were. Printer profiles are what make the difference between colours looking a little bit off, skin tones a little bit off, and getting good colours. Now, to me, they're about getting good looking colours. There is a question of accuracy as well, and it's quite a complex subject. But I've got loads of videos, and I've covered this in all my reviews and things and sort of stuff looking into this. But we're putting the ink down on the paper here. The profiles, fine tune it. Now, when you make profiles, and I make profiles for all the printers I test. When you make a profile, you make a profile for the printer, the paper, the media setting, and that's where you make your profile for. So they all go together. So you might think, well, if I change the media setting, what happens? Well, I mentioned that you might get the wrong inks put down, but that's an extreme example. More likely, the ink amounts won't be optimized for the paper you're using. So you may, if you're using an example, and this is, somebody asked me a question this morning, and this is what gave me the idea for this particular video. They wanted to use a particular paper in a particular slot in a printer. Now that slot didn't support the type of paper that they wanted, so they used one similar. They used a different type of matte paper. Lo and behold, the print came out, it worked, but the colours were faint. It didn't work well. What was causing it? It was the wrong media setting. Now, that's why when it goes wrong, I said there are important reasons why you might deliberately choose to use the wrong media setting. In fact, the best example I can give that is the Epson 8550, a printer I recently recommended as the best print. If you're serious about making prints and you want to get into it, you're worried about ink costs, 8550. I've got a video looking at this recently. But anyway, it has two blacks. It has a dye black and a pigment black. Normally, if you specify a photo paper, it uses the dye black. That's fine. If you specify some matte media, it uses the dye black. If you specify the velvet fine art or VFA setting, it automatically uses the darker matte black. And knowing how to change the settings and how they change the inks. Now, this is quite complex. This is because I did it during the review. If you've got an 8550 or any of the Epson EcoTank printers, have a look at the reviews and the videos I've done on that, because they explain this in far more detail. And I've produced profiles for the 8550 that show this. It lets you use the VFA setting on other matte papers that aren't VFA. So, you know, that's a very good reason for it, because it turns for printing matte on matte papers, it turns the 8550 into a fairly good print, into something that's actually capable of very good prints. Now, we're not talking at the level of, like, as I say, the Pro 1100, which I'm hoping to review in a few weeks, or this big P5000 that sits here. We're not talking that level of it, but it's good. And it's why, you know, it's unusual for me to ever make a recommendation for a printer, but that one definitely got it for various things. So other examples of it would be, well, this is a print of it's a picture of the ET-2550. This only has 4 inks. Now the black on this is a pigment black. The colours, the cyan, magenta, yellow, they are dyes. If you specify most papers on this, it only uses the dye inks. If you specify one of the matte papers on this, it uses all 4 inks. Now, of course, the normal settings would be only to use it as appropriate, but it turns out that on this printer, much like the 8550, which has more inks, it has 6 inks rather than this one here. This is about as low level as you can get for getting good results out of. Takes some effort, but it turns out that by picking the wrong media settings, you can actually optimize it. Now, hopefully that's a bit of clarity. Essentially what I'm saying is that, yeah, the media settings are important. Sometimes when you know what you're doing, you can get better results by deliberately choosing the wrong media settings. And if anyone from Epson or Canon is listening, please, please, please make more information available on the media settings. Causes all sorts of troubles for when I'm doing testing. It means I have to do lots of extra testing that I wouldn't necessarily need to do more than once for things like that. But anyway, if you've got any questions, please do ask. If you're new to the channel, there is a comprehensive video index of 650 plus videos I've done that's linked in the notes to this. I put other stuff in the notes that may be of use. And a reminder that if you've got any questions coming up for my Pro 1100 review, please let me know, since it's far easier for me to answer them if I know before I get a printer than after I've had a printer here for it. Anyway, thank you very much for watching. Please do, as they say, like and subscribe, etc., all of that stuff. And bye.